The radical rethinking of power, provocative ideas that challenge the status quo in an era defined by rapid technological advancement, deepening inequality, and environmental collapse. Provocative ideas have become essential tools for those seeking meaningful societal transformation. These are not mere opinions but radical reimaginings of reality that force us to confront uncomfortable truths. This article explores some of the most challenging and transformative intellectual frameworks currently shaping activist discourse across disciplines from philosophy to economics. Dismantling the illusion of progress. Modern societies often celebrate progress as an unassailable good, yet this narrative masks deeper contradictions. We build skyscrapers while displacing communities, create AI systems that automate jobs without creating new ones, and measure success through metrics that ignore ecological destruction. Critical theorists argue we've created a system where growth is equated with value, even when it leads to catastrophic outcomes. This mindset has produced paradoxes like increased material wealth alongside rising mental health crises and climate disasters. Example: in the United States, GDP has grown steadily since World War II, yet measures of well-being such as life expectancy and happiness levels have stagnated or declined over the same period. Economic growth fallacy. The belief that continuous economic expansion is inherently beneficial ignores resource limits and human needs. Technological determinism. Assuming technology will automatically solve problems creates complacency towards structural changes. Environmental cost neglect. Economic models consistently undervalue natural capital, leading to unsustainable exploitation. Redefining freedom in post-capitalist terms. Traditional notions of freedom centered around individual choice and market participation. But activists and philosophers now challenge these assumptions, arguing they reinforce power imbalances rather than liberate people. New perspectives emphasize collective agency and systemic change. They propose freedom means having real control over our lives, not merely choosing among predetermined options within capitalist constraints. True freedom, writes political theorist Dr. Amina Kader, is the ability to shape the conditions of your existence, not simply react to them. The emergence of new liberation frameworks. Scholars are developing alternative liberation theories rooted in intersectional analysis. These approaches recognize how race, gender, class, and other factors intersect to produce complex forms of oppression. Data shows that Black women earn only 63 cents for every dollar earned by white men, illustrating how overlapping identities compound disadvantage. Such intersections demand multifaceted solutions beyond single-axis approaches. Reimagining democracy beyond representation. Representative democracy has long been the dominant model, yet its limitations are increasingly apparent. Elected officials often serve powerful interests rather than the public good, leading to democratic deficits. Activists are proposing participatory models where citizens actively engage in decision-making processes. From deliberative polls to direct democracy initiatives, these experiments aim to restore genuine popular sovereignty. A notable example is Iceland's crowdsourced constitution project in 2011, which involved thousands of citizens in drafting a new constitutional framework after the financial crisis. Decolonizing knowledge production. The Eurocentric bias in mainstream academia remains a significant barrier to inclusive knowledge creation. This colonial legacy continues to marginalize non-Western epistemologies and experiences. Decolonization efforts seek to dismantle these hierarchies by valuing diverse ways of knowing. Indigenous methodologies, African oral traditions, and Asian philosophical systems are being integrated into academic curricula worldwide. In Canada, universities have begun incorporating First Nations pedagogical approaches into their teaching methods, acknowledging the historical erasure of Indigenous knowledge systems. Challenges in implementing decolonial approaches. While the concept resonates widely, practical implementation faces resistance. Academic institutions often lack the infrastructure or willingness to fully integrate decolonized curricula. Moreover, there are debates about what constitutes legitimate knowledge and who gets to define it. Some scholars warn against oversimplifying complex cultural practices under the banner of decolonization. Despite these challenges, movements continue pushing forward, recognizing that true inclusivity requires fundamental shifts in educational priorities. Utopian thinking as strategic resistance. Utopian visions might seem impractical, but they play crucial roles in activism by providing alternatives to the current order. These imagined futures help mobilize people around shared goals. Historically, utopian literature has inspired real-world reforms. Think of Karl Marx's vision of communism influencing labor movements, or feminist sci-fi inspiring modern reproductive rights campaigns. Today's activists use speculative design, world-building workshops, and transmedia storytelling to make future possibilities tangible and compelling. Beyond binary oppositions, embracing complexity. Much activism operates within binary oppositions: good versus evil, left versus right, traditional versus progressive. Yet many provocative thinkers advocate moving past simplistic dichotomies. They suggest understanding issues as dynamic systems with interdependent variables. For instance, addressing poverty cannot be separated from tackling climate change or dismantling racism. Systems thinking helps reveal these connections, showing how interventions in one area can have ripple effects elsewhere. It encourages holistic problem-solving approaches. Ecologist Donella Meadows emphasized that changing systems requires identifying leverage points, places where small actions can trigger larger transformations. Post-human perspectives on social change. As artificial intelligence becomes more pervasive, activists grapple with profound questions about humanity itself. What does it mean to be human in a world dominated by algorithms? Some futurists envision symbiotic relationships between humans and AI, where both enhance each other's capabilities. Others caution against losing autonomy in pursuit of efficiency. These discussions raise ethical dilemmas about data privacy, algorithmic bias, and the potential for AI to replicate existing power structures digitally. Radical care as political action. Care work has traditionally been devalued despite its centrality to survival and dignity. Activists are reclaiming care as a form of resistance against exploitative labor regimes. They highlight how marginalized groups bear disproportionate caregiving burdens due to systemic neglect. This includes elderly individuals, disabled persons, and caregivers in low-income households. Radical care frameworks prioritize communal support networks over privatized services. They advocate for universal basic income, expanded healthcare access, and redistributive policies that reduce care-related precarity. Actionable insight: supporting local mutual aid projects provides immediate relief while building community resilience against state failures. Unsettling the myth of individual responsibility. Societal problems are frequently framed as resulting from personal failings rather than systemic flaws. This narrative absolves institutions of accountability and reinforces stigma around those affected by hardship. Critics argue that emphasizing individual responsibility overlooks structural barriers. Housing insecurity isn't caused by laziness. It results from predatory lending practices and disinvestment in certain neighborhoods. Shifting blame away from systems enables policymakers to avoid implementing necessary reforms. It also perpetuates shame among vulnerable populations already facing discrimination. Activists push back by exposing the mechanisms behind inequality and demanding institutional change instead of moralizing about personal choices. Reclaiming time as revolutionary. Resource capitalist economies treat time as a commodity to be maximized for productivity. However, activists see time as something sacred that should be used intentionally for flourishing rather than endless consumption. The degrowth movement advocates reducing working hours as a way to redistribute time more equitably. Shorter workweeks could allow for greater lay. Spain experimented with 4-day workweeks in several companies without reducing pay, demonstrating the feasibility of such models. Productivity remained stable while employee satisfaction improved significantly. By reclaiming time from corporate demands, communities can invest in creative pursuits, education, and social bonds that enrich life outside of wage labor. Disruptive pedagogy for transformative learning. Education systems often reproduce hierarchical power relations rather than fostering critical inquiry. Disruptive pedagogy seeks to overturn these dynamics by making learning process-centered and student-led. It emphasizes dialogue over lectures, collaboration over competition, and reflection over rote memorization. Students take ownership of their learning journeys through experiential activities and self-directed exploration. Pedagogues like Paulo Freire argued that education should empower learners rather than mold them into passive consumers of information. His concept of conscientization aims to awaken critical awareness about oppressive structures. Implementing disruptive pedagogy requires teachers to relinquish control and embrace uncertainty. It may lead to messy classrooms, but these spaces foster authentic engagement with complex topics. Conclusion: provocative ideas challenge us to question deeply ingrained beliefs about society, economy, and identity. They offer fresh lenses through which to understand the world and imagine different possibilities. From rethinking progress to embracing post-human futures, these concepts provide vital resources for anyone committed to meaningful change. Their true value lies not in easy answers, but in opening up space for ongoing questioning and reinvention. Engaging with these ideas is an act of defiance against complacency. It invites us to participate actively in shaping the kind of world we want to live in, rather than passively accepting whatever emerges next.